I leveled another Barbarian character to level 100 since last update. To my surprise, this Whirlwind build did 342 million damage to Uber Lilith. Let's take a look at the fight. The bleed damage deletes her faces super fast. It is very satisfying to see the health bar from the start of the bleeding to it completely depleted. The second stage of Uber Lilith is also not a problem. Her complete health bar gets deleted only within a few seconds. This is a tier 99 Nightmare Dungeon boss. The same story, the bleed will deplete the entire health bar in just a few seconds. Of course, the same thing will happen for a tier 100 Nightmare Dungeon boss. I followed some guide on the internet to level this build. It didn't have any problem all the way to level 100. However, after getting closer to a higher tier Nightmare Dungeon, this happens, and this, and this, even though I have over 8,000 armor and over 17k life. I found a way to deal with it later on, so stay to the end of the video to know how. All the build details are in the default planner site for you to take a look. It is linked in the description. If you want to see more content like this, please smash the like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to never miss a video. Basic skill, we use Lunging Strike, Enhanced Lunging Strike, and Comeback Lunging Strike to get the Berserker. This is very important while you are waiting for the Berserker cooldown. Whirlwind is our main skill. We maximize the point into the skill, Enhance the Whirlwind, and Furious Whirlwind to get the bleed damage. This is the main bleed source of the build. Pressure point is very important to get vulnerable for bosses and also elite, which you cannot kill within 3 seconds. We also use exploit Glyph, which will be mentioned in the Paragon bots, to get vulnerable as well, but after 3 seconds, I believe if you cannot kill the boss or the elites, this is where you can get vulnerable applied as well, which is super important. For defensive skills, we have Rallying Cry to get unstoppable, and also resource generation, enhanced Rallying Cry, and also tactical Rallying Cry to get more fury back. Iron Skin, of course, get more defensive, more buff, enhanced Iron Skin, and also tactical Iron Skin to heal you to a amount per second to keep you alive. And the Challenging Shot, this is our main damage reduction buff. Enhanced Challenging Shot and also Tactical Challenging Shot to get some fury back while taking damage. War Cry is very important to get Berserker. Enhanced War Cry and also Power War Cry to basically get more damage output. We pick some of the passive loads here. Booming Voice to increase the duration of the shot. Raid Leader to basically heal while you are using shot, and also Guttural Yell to basically increase to take less damage from the enemies. We also put a 3-point in aggressive resistance to get more damage reduction while berserking. 3-point into Pit Fighter to deal increased damage to close enemies and get 6% damage reduction from distant enemies. No Mercy is to increase the critical strike damage for slowed enemies, most of the cases in our build. 1 point into Hamstring to basically slow down enemies while they are bleeding, and 3 points in Cut to the Bone to increase the bleed damage effect. 1 point in the Seeker Skin to be able to get the counter offensive to deal increased damage while you have Fortify. And 3 point in the Heavy Handed to increase the critical strike damage for two-handed weapon, which is what we are using. And for the key passive, we use Gushing Wounds to deal more bleed damage, and also doing some explosion while you're basically overpowering. I have been switched between Gushing Wounds and also Unbridled Rage to basically deal more damage. However, I found out that my Fury generation is not good enough to support this, but this key passive actually give you a lot of damage increase, which feels really good. If you can manage to get your fury back faster than this build, this is definitely the way to go. For gears on helmet, we're looking for cooldown reduction, maximum life, total armor, and also damage while berserking. For the aspect, we use disobedience to get more armor while attacking. On the chest, we're looking for damage reduction from close, damage reduction, maximum life, and also total armor to basically get all the defensive stats. And I use Iron Warrior to get unstoppable while using Iron Skin, and also 22% up to 28% damage reduction. On the glove, look for critical strike chance, lucky hit chance, or stat or strength, and also rank of Whirlwind. For the aspect, use Relentless Berserker to get a chance to extend the duration of the berserking, which is very important for longer boss fight and also Uber Lilith fight. On the pants, we look for all the damage reduction, total armor, damage reduction from either close, either bleeding, or while fortified, and also damage reduction while injured. This is very important stats. In, for example, Nightmare 100 tier dungeon, you want to maximize the damage reduction while injured. So basically get to close to 40% is required. And we use numbing rods to get more fortify. In this way, we get a lot of fortify. For the boots, we get movement speed for sure. Slow duration reduction is useless here. This is not optimized yet. Fury cost reduction and also damage reduction while injured. As you can see, this is also almost maximized to close to 43 points. And I'm using the Audacity to basically stun close enemies for 4 seconds. You can use something else like when you become unstoppable and 4 seconds after, you can get more movement speed on this one if you want to clear really fast. On the bludgeoning weapon, this is a mace. You are looking for vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, damage to close enemies, and also all stat or strength. For one-hander, this is using, by the way, we should be using limitless reach to get more damage output. For one-hander, Simpson looking for vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, damage to close, and also all stat or strength. Simpson for another one-hander, you can use Edge Master on 1 to deal more damage based on the Fury, and also Conceited aspect on this one to increase the damage while you have barrier. So when you use Iron Skin, you will have barrier. So this is up a lot of the times. On the main weapon, this is the main weapon that we're using. It's a two-handed sword because it has a critical strike damage implicit there to give you 21% more critical strike damage, which is very good. You will also looking for as high as item power for this weapon. As for the mods, you should look for vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, damage to close, and also strength or stats. And we use Berserking Ripping aspect on this weapon to inflict more damage when you dealing direct damage while berserking. For the amulets, this one actually I maximize for damage reduction because I want to survive in Nightmare Dungeon tier 100. And luckily we get a more than 40% damage reduction while injured, also damage reduction from close enemies and damage reduction while fortified. Luckily I get a +3 rank to No Mercy passive. You can choose this for two-handed, heavy-handed to get more critical strike damage as well. And normally you should, while leveling, you should look for movement speed and fury, and a cooldown reduction on the amulet, which is best for leveling. And for the rain, look for vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, lucky hit chance, and also critical hit chance. And I use bold chieftain aspect to reduce the cooldown of the short skills. By the way, on the amulet, I'm using Dire Whirlwind to increase the damage while you keep using Whirlwind, which happens all the time. And also put a heart to reduce the incoming damage, which is very good. And on this run, you will be looking for a heart to spend on life instead of your primary source. This one actually is very important. If you don't use this heart, you will get more problems of fury. So this is a very critical heart to have. And the last run, look for the same stats: vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, critical strike chance, and also lucky hit chance. Barrier regeneration is useless here. And then we put a barber heart here. You want to look for less seconds for the absorption because you want the damage output as frequent as possible. For expertise, since we're using a two-handed sword, we get this by default, hence we're using a two-hand axe expertise. I want to go over all the details of Paragon boards. There's a link in the description so you can read all of the details. So we're using Ras, Glyph to get more critical strike damage, and also critical strike damage to generate 3 Fury. This is very important for Fury generation. And maximum Fury, also War Binger to get a lot of Fortify to keep you survive. And more physical damage, here use Exploit to get vulnerable on hit for 3 seconds and also more vulnerable damage. We're also using Martial to get damage from the magical node. So here you can see we get a lot of increased damage reduction from vulnerable enemies, and also a lot of vulnerable damage from these loads, and also vulnerable damage from these loads plus armor, vulnerable damage, armor, which are really good. And then get this load for more damage, and also around the nodes around get more damage to elites. We use this Empower to get more increased damage for physical damage over time, and also cooldown reduction for non-ultimate skills. Get this node for more damage reduction. For more damage while berserking, and also most importantly to increase the berserking duration, and also some other nodes either increase the damage or increase berserking duration. Get this node for a 10 chance to grant berserking while killing a bleeding enemy. This is very good for leveling or clearing the mods in the Nightmare Dungeon. Got this node for a lot of damage reduction, and also some of the damage reduction nodes around. We use Undaunted to get more damage while fortified, and also further 10% damage reduction depending on the fortify you have. Get this node for more bleeding damage, and get this cluster for a lot of survivability with life, armor, all around this cluster. And then lastly, we use Territorial to get more damage to close enemies, and also damage reduction against close enemies, which is very strong. Lastly, these damage reduction nodes while you are healthy to keep you alive. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave your comment below to let me know how do you want to tweak and play the build. See you in the next one.